So, as with all our sessions, this is after we've done a proper and full warm-up. Starting on the left-hand side of the screen with A, you can see that there's a lot of passing here. There's 10 passes before we get to the top of the screen, and then it's a driven pass to number 1 on the opposite side in the B channel. You'll see the difference between A and B. There's a lot more passes and movement from A than B, where we're just looking at can we get the ball forward as quickly as possible on both sides, and I would never do both of them at the same time. I would replicate left and right side just to mirror each other, but both sides we're looking for clean, crisp passes, good movement off the ball, and making sure that when the ball gets to 10 and 8 respectively, it's a quality driven pass to number 1 on the opposite side. Players follow their numbered passes from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. This is a progression to the exercise that we've done before. So previously it was attack the goal in front, defend the goal across. This one, as you can see, you can score in either goal. The one thing that I would say to help you keep this game running is as a player attacks, defends on their way back to the line, make sure they take a football back. I've got 2 sets of 5 minutes here. You'll find that if players don't take those footballs back, you won't be able to go for the 5 minutes. You'll stop because you'll be asking the guys to collect the footballs in and restart it. This was an exercise that I stole from Albirex Nagata in the Singaporean S League. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Very simple setup. A player will start by throwing the ball into the player opposite them, just as they would in a game, and then the blue player has to break either one of these L-shaped blue lines. The progression that I saw from those guys was absolutely brilliant. The player would not throw the ball in as a game, but they would underarm throw it, and they would throw it as high as they possibly could to the player in blue. As soon as the red player threw the ball left their hands, they would sprint across the box to try and put the player receiving the ball under a lot of pressure. So it became very competitive. It became very difficult for the player receiving the ball to get that good first touch and get the ball under control. But the level that these guys were working at was brilliant. I loved the competitiveness. I loved the standards that they were setting for themselves. I loved that some players were a little bit more mean-spirited than others in making sure that the player receiving the ball had zero time. This is a really simple game. If you give the ball away as a player, you need to step out. And now how long you step out for depends on what condition you as the coach sets. As a player steps out, they grab one of the spare balls, they do whatever you prescribe. It could be step overs, it could be keep you ups, it could be push ups, sit ups, whatever you like. What I focus on in this exercise, when that player steps out, blues have an overload, blues have additional space. How can we take advantage of that? In the second session of this week, I changed the warm-up, and I changed it to my favourite exercise of all time. So this is a 1-yard triangle, and players are not allowed to pass the ball back through the gate that they received it from. So in this example, red passes to blue here. This side of the triangle is now locked, and the 2 grey arrows are where the player can go before passing the ball back through the triangle. I love this exercise purely because it can work with really young players, it can work with senior internationals who I've done it with, and it can be regressed back to adding in more touches. I try and start at 3 touches and progress it to 2 touches. This is a great exercise for movement on the ball, movement off the ball, that good first touch, passing, awareness of opponents. I absolutely love this exercise. A little bit of fitness work for this session. Each player is stationed 5 yards away from the gate. So it's 5 yards forwards, 5 yards backwards. The guy in the middle is the player who controls this, calling out 10 random numbers between 1 and 6. The player working has to run up and just tag hands. Wherever I do this, whenever I do it, I'll always do it in multiple sets. And for the second or third set, I always add in a football. So the player at 1, 2, 5 and 6 has a ball in hand or on feet, and it's just a pass back to the worker, real short, make it a 1 or a 2 yard pass, nothing more. the player who's at 3-4 is either getting the player up for a header or making them control the ball in an aerial situation. I call this game Mel's game because the first coach that I saw do this exercise was Mel, and I adapted it from her. I'm sure you have done this before, I'm sure you call it whatever you want. This specific exercise, I focused on the team in the middle. I wanted to make sure they were positioned correctly to try and force a pass that they could then intercept. I'm sure you know, if the player in red gives away the ball, blue step out, yellow start with it, red comes in to defend. This exercise I took from Scott McKenzie, who was the under-20s Partick Thistle coach that I assisted. In this exercise, as I've written, as soon as a player can, they try and hit this target player in the centre zone. Both teams then move into the middle one. The team who passed into the target player receive the ball back, and then they try and hit the target player in the next zone. As the teams playing possession move from right to left, the yellows do the opposite. So this player here would move into the centre zone, and this player here would move into this right hand side zone, and the ball just keeps moving backwards and forwards. Each time players move through both of the target players from one end of the zone to the other end of the zone, they get a point. This session finished off with just a normal game. After a warm-up in this session, the teams went into a game called Catch Me If You Can. Player initially starts here and drives with the ball as quick as they can before passing through the gate to the other gate for the player to repeat that. Can they dribble with the ball as quick as they can before the player who initially passed them can get around that cone and tag them? Now, I've found that if you just ask the players to run around this cone here, this blue one, they will catch the player dribbling with the ball too easily. So when I'm working with a new group, I start this yellow cone 1 yard away. From there, I either make it bigger, I make it smaller, I just adapt it to the group's physical and technical capabilities. I wanted to give my players specific targets, just initially to get them into a habit of where do I need to be as a player getting in the end of a cross when the ball is in X area. So if you have a close look, this is a white box. There's a white box at the back of the 18-yard box here. Red box, there's a red box in the middle of the penalty area, and blue box on the end line. There's an area marked out by blue here. So the players would start and do whatever they wanted. They could play whatever combination between the blues to get the ball wide. They also had the choice of playing it into box 1, 2 or 3, and then that player would have to react, get into one of those three boxes, and two of these players would then get up into the penalty box to try and get on the end of a cross and score. This game, as the rules state, really simple. A goal of any type is 1 point. A goal from a cross or a first time finish is 2, and a goal from a cross with a first time finish, 5 points. The last 10 minutes of this session I used to imprint my ideas of how we would work defensively as a team, looking at triggers, looking at starting positions, looking at distances between players and between lines. You can add in whichever formation that you want and start adding in your ideas of how you want to set up defensively. And those were the 3 sessions for the week.